So here we are inside the all-new Audi S4. Today's going to be a completely unbiased owner's review, as this is now my personal vehicle. And at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you why I would buy this Audi S4 over a BMW 340i, as well as over an Audi S5 Sportback or Coupe. I'll also tell you how I got a sweet deal on this Audi as well, because there's a lot of great deals going on vehicles right now. So tune in, grab a coffee, let's hang out and talk about it. All right, so let's kick things off first with the interior. The interior space in this Audi is, in true Audi fashion, one of the most comfortable interiors that I've ever seen in a vehicle. I've never owned an Audi before. Now that I own this, I'm super pumped. Me and my wife love it. The interior is beautiful. Everywhere you lay your hands, every touch point is completely plush, whether it's Alcantara, whether it's carbon fiber, whether it's leather. And everything in the interior is built extremely well. It almost has, I personally think it's equivalent to a Lexus build quality. Some people would argue that it's better or anything or something like that. I don't know if it's better. I think it's just as good. And it's a little bit different, but it's completely solid. There's no creaks and rattles and any pieces in the interior. And I really appreciate that when you're spending a lot of money on a vehicle. This retails for 63 grand. I appreciate when, the interior is built extremely well. Another piece of the interior that I really have grown to love, and this is something that is way better than Lexus quality, is the Bang & Olufsen sound system. The Bang & Olufsen sound system, the B&O, in this vehicle, it is the best sound system that I've ever had in a car. And this is the Premium Plus trim. And in the Lexus, I had the Mark Levinson and all that. I've heard that. I don't think it compares. This B&O subwoofer in here, all of the speakers, the tweeters, I don't know how many there are throughout the cabin, but there's quite a few. I mean, there's one here, there's one here, there's one there. There's riddled throughout the cabin. It's completely immersive and it has a really crisp treble sound to it, but then you can adjust the subwoofer in this vehicle, and the subwoofer kicks, man. You can crank that sub and get a really, really nice sounding, well-rounded sound experience if you're an audiophile like me. So highly recommend the Bang & Olufsen sound system. The other thing is that I mentioned the materials. The materials are really, really great. But specifically the leather. So, you get a lot of different types of leathers in cars these days. Some are kind of more of a faux leather. Some are more of a realistic leather. I would put this Audi leather, I have no doubt in my mind that the leather wrapping the steering wheel is real leather the way that it feels. And I'd say that about all of the leather trimmings in the cabin. And I think that's one of those things that, when you're paying, again, a $60-some thousand price tag for a vehicle, it's really nice to get true leather throughout the vehicle. So, yeah, I think that's true across Audi's lineup, and I wouldn't expect anything less from Audi, but just wanted to call that out. I think it's better than the BMW leather, for example, that you might find in the 340i. So there's that. On the interior, there's also a lot of other great things to love. So one of the other things that I love is how intuitive the controls are. Now, Audi, I don't know if they're really necessarily known for intuitive controls, but I would say that the controls in this cabin are fairly intuitive. Now, don't get me wrong, they're not as intuitive as Japanese vehicles. I personally tout Japanese vehicles for this all the time. I think Japanese set up the controls in a much easier to quickly figure out kind of way. But this Audi S4, I think that you have physical HVAC dials. Your heated seat is a physical button. You have your drive select as physical buttons. You have auto stop start. These are all physical buttons over here. And then there's a digital cluster in the middle that, you can adjust your climate a little bit. And these buttons are actually touch sensitive, which is really cool. And they feel amazing. I mean, the steel on these buttons is really, really high quality. It's probably not steel, but it feels like, real metal. Maybe it is real metal. I don't know. But the controls in general are pretty intuitive. When it comes to the infotainment, though, the infotainment I would say is just okay. I would expect a little bit better of an infotainment from, Audi, but I know that this vehicle, this particular S4, does not have the, the center stack piece of the infotainment, which I actually kind of prefer because I have more physical controls. But the infotainment itself is not as good as my wife's RAV4 infotainment, in my opinion. I think the new Toyota infotainment is easier to use, looks better, functions better, easier to press with Apple CarPlay. And what I mean by that is that this screen is not necessarily small, but for some reason, I don't have particularly large hands, average hands. When I press the buttons, it's a little bit tricky to nail down the right Apple CarPlay button, and that kind of drives me nuts and upsets me sometimes because, again, it looks pretty good, but it's just like a little bit too small. Maybe coming from the Toyota Tundra with the massive infotainment, I got used to the massive infotainment, but this one just feels a little bit too small for me, a little bit too dainty, if you will. The other thing that I wanted to mention is the carbon fiber in the trim. There's a ton of carbon fiber across the front of the cabin and the door sills. I personally think this carbon fiber looks super cool. My wife thinks it looks ricey, as I would say, or cheap. My wife thinks it looks cheap. And I think that, you know, it's one of those things that maybe she just doesn't get the race car vibes, or maybe as guys, we're just like, ooh, race car, we want carbon fiber. You know, this vehicle's a little lighter than the S5. Maybe that's why. I don't know if it's necessary for performance in the vehicle. I like to think that it is, but it's probably just for aesthetics and a look. I personally seem to like it. My wife doesn't. Just wanted to call that out to you. I think there are some other trim options you can get if you wanted to consider getting a different trim option. Another thing that I wanted to mention about the interior is that the trunk space, it's really good. I think the trunk space in this is pretty great. Right now I have like 2 camera bags, a tennis rack, a spare tire kit in the back, and I have more room to fit back there. You could probably fit 2 or 3 carry-ons, a full-on suitcase back there. I mean, it's a pretty good boot, as they say in the UK. So I really appreciate the trunk space. I think there's a good amount of space for storage in the center stack here, although there's an open center console, which you kind of lay your phone in, and you know, it beeps when you leave your phone in the car. It's super annoying, but it's got a wireless charger here and it's like wide open, so there's not a ton of storage in the center console, just something to consider. But there is a little flap right here that has a deep cubby into it that I can kind of stick my arm pretty far in there. So it's got some decent storage throughout the cabin. I think the cup holders and things like that are very adequate for a sports car of this caliber. The back seat, I will say, is a little tight. I'm not going to jump back there for you. I have a car seat back there right now. Look, I'm 5'9", 5'10" on a good day if I'm stretching, and in the back seat, you know, when I'm in my driving position, now people have roasted me on YouTube many times. I'm a guy who's from Philly. I like to drive with my seat back a little bit. You know, my back, where I sit is a little bit further back than maybe you might sit, but I personally don't like to sit perfectly upright in a car when I'm driving. I like to kind of lay back, you know, and just kind of be able to smile at folks when I drive by. So back seat's a little bit tight. It's not super crammed. You can fit a car seat back there and all that, but it's just a little bit tight. So just keep that in mind when it comes to the interior. All right, let's move on to the exterior of the vehicle now. All right, now come on, guys. When you look at the exterior of this thing, you really can't argue this is one of the best looking vehicles on the road. From the chromed out mirrors, the body lines, the aggressive sharp body lines of the Audi styling. I'm not a huge fan of these wheels, but everything on this vehicle I think is done really well. You know, Audi, again, I mentioned build quality. As you walk around this vehicle, you can see how tight the body lines are. The body lines on this car are really tight, and I love that. I appreciate that. When you're spending $60,000 on a vehicle, you want those little details to lock up, and these body lines are just sweet. You get the quad tip exhaust out back. I love that thing. It looks really good from the back. I think I'm gonna get a rear splitter and a front splitter to make it look a little bit more aggressive. They look great with those add-ons added to them. And you have the large Audi S brakes. I think they're 4-piston brakes. You know, someone will correct me in the comments, I'm sure. They're either 3 or 4 piston. Mine are painted black. I think it'd be cool if they were painted red, and I'd love to have drilled and dotted rotors, but you know, those are things that are to come for this vehicle. Additionally, the Audi LED headlights. The Audi LED headlights are some of the most aggressive headlights on the road. I think these look really good. If you lower them, put a little bit of a better tire on them, wider wheel, give them some stance, they look super mean. So yeah, I think it really has that mean look. I saw an RS6 at the park this weekend, and it was just one of those captivating vehicles. So from the outside, I think this vehicle is one of the best looking around. And I really am happy with this decision. I know a lot of people like how the S5 Sportback or Coupe looks. In my opinion, I think a proper sedan is one of the best routes you can go. I think it looks the sportiest. I think it probably handles the best, is balanced the best. So this thing is just, it looks sweet from the outside, no question. Woo-wee! Well, there she is, guys. Take a look at this 3-liter turboed V6. Pushing 349 horsepower, 369 torque, stock from the factory. This thing is a badass engine. I love this thing. It rips, for lack of a better word, man. This thing just freaking rips. Fastest car I've owned stock, hands down, and I can't wait to mod it. It's one of those things that a basic APR tune and some quick bolt-ons will get this thing to probably well over 400 horsepower, which is, I think, something that people don't often understand about the Audi S4. They think that, oh, it's not as fast as the B58 in the 340i stock. Sure, that's true, but you can tune it and you get a way nicer interior experience than the B58 with the BMW. So tuning these things is really the way to go, and I can't wait to get this thing tuned. 0 to 60 in this stock is 4.7 seconds. Now, if you tune this thing, obviously with Quattro, you're stuck to the road. You get the all-wheel drive system. You can go way faster, 0 to 60, probably closer to 4 seconds once you get it boosted up, and even quicker, quarter mile improvement times. And this is also quicker to 60 than the S5 because I think it's like 100 pounds or 50 pounds lighter, something like that. So it's a smaller, lighter vehicle, and 0 to 60, and this is just a little bit quicker. Another reason why you might pick this over the S5. Now, they're all quick enough. I'm not saying the S5 isn't quick enough. This one's just a little bit quicker. Now, let me pop this for you and show you something real quick. They always do this with the heat shields. They cover us up and they take away all the beauty of the engine, which pisses me off, but whatever. It's a heat shield. These things are known for, for heat soak. And there's another heat shield underneath that. This engine is special in the sense that it is what they call a hot V configuration. If you're not familiar with that, the hot V configuration means that the turbo right here, it's a twin scroll turbocharger, so you can see kind of two of the, fan sections of the turbo. The turbo is mounted in between the cylinders. So the engine is kind of sitting like this, three cylinders, V6 with the turbo in between. That's called a hot V. And the reason why you have a hot V is to reduce turbo lag. It allows the engine to spool faster for some reason. I'm not an engineer, but for some reason it allows the engine to spool quicker. So you get power, more linear power, more quick power. And because this thing makes power more quickly, you feel less lag. And that's one of those things that when you're driving this vehicle, you can really, really, really notice when you're driving it. The power is right there. I've had, many turboed vehicles, and a lot of turboed vehicles, what happens is, you press the pedal, and from 1,000 RPMs to 3,000 RPMs, the turbo is spooling up, and then once it spools up, you hit your peak power band, and the car starts to pull. It's one of those things that is kind of annoying and a downside of turboed cars, even though that they're fast. This alleviates that quite a bit, so it's a really, really intelligent configuration that Audi did. But other things when it comes to driving dynamics with this engine are that it is a little bit touchy. So, this engine does have a lot of power, a lot of different modes in the computer. There is like electronic throttle, electronic steering, things like that. Because of that, it is a little bit touchy, and more touchy than some of the Japanese competitors like an IS350 or IS500 or something like that, which I have driven. They're much more engaging and linear, and the driving experience in this is a little bit more muted, a little bit more electronic, if you will, a little bit more sensitive. So I'm still getting used to that. It's not a total negative, but it is something to be aware of. If you're buying a German vehicle, you might just want to drive a Japanese vehicle just to kind of see if you like this or that better. And then when it comes to driving dynamics in terms of like cornering and things like that, I'll throw some B-roll up for you of me driving through the mountains to show you what it looks like. It handles great. You do get a little bit of understeer, which is to be expected from an all-wheel drive vehicle instead of a rear-wheel drive vehicle. So you get a little bit of that understeer. It's not bad. This is pretty well balanced, but you get a little bit of understeer with it. But overall, it handles really, really well. It's the best handling car that I've ever owned for sure. I had a Subaru WRX when I was younger, and that thing was fun, but nothing compared to this machine, that's for sure. Fuel economy out of this engine, you're looking at 21 in the city, 30 on the highway, and I'm experiencing that. I'm getting like right in the 25 range, so it's pretty standard, pretty much what I would expect, which I do like to see, because a lot of times when you buy vehicles, you get way less than the predicted fuel economy. This, you're actually getting exactly what is predicted in terms of fuel economy, so I'm very happy with that. I don't feel like I'm filling it up all the time. It does take premium gas, but it really is not bad on gas at all. The all-wheel drive system is great. Audi Quattro, it's a mechanical Torsen limited slip differential. You can't really go wrong there. It's the best all-wheel drive system that you can have. It's why Audi is known for Quattro. There's no secret to that. They have the best all-wheel drive system next to Subaru. Their all-wheel drive systems are impeccable. They perform consistently. They perform well in the wet weather, the cold weather, the snowy conditions. They perform well all around. Just make sure you have some good tires on your vehicle. Tires are the most important thing. Always keep that in mind. And again, like I said, I have a lot of things coming for this vehicle. I'm looking at doing probably an APR tune on this vehicle. You can do a regular standard APR tune, and you can push over 400 horsepower to the wheels with some basic bolt-ons to this thing. You can if you want to upgrade the turbo and things like that, you can get closer to 450, 500 horsepower out of these things. But if you just do some basic bolt-ons and an APR tune, you'll get near the 425, possibly 450 range, depending on how much boost you decide to throw into this thing and what bolt-ons you do. If you do resonator deletes, if you do cold air intakes. There's a variety of different things that you can do, but some of those are the most popular. But you don't really have to do a ton. You can really just do the tune, and the stock equipment on this, the stock hardware, will get you, over 400 horsepower with literally just the tune, which is pretty amazing. So yeah, overall, awesome driving experience, awesome engine experience, and these are also known to be pretty reliable. So when you look at a turboed, high horsepower, high performance turboed engine, you worry about reliability typically. The S4 is known, and this B9.5 edition of this motor, a lot of the kinks have been worked out. So in general, it's a fairly reliable power plant. So it's not going to be perfect. It's still an Audi. I wouldn't expect to get 300,000 miles out of it like a Lexus, but it's definitely not known to be riddled with problems, which is why I bought it as a personal vehicle, and I've been loving it so far. All right, so lastly, let's get into why I would pick this vehicle over the BMW 340i, as well as over the Audi S5 Sportback or Coupe, which I did do. All right, so let's get into that now. Now, I'm gonna be honest, those vehicles are great vehicles. If you wanna buy one of those, buy one of those. These are all great, equal competitors, I would say. But the main reason why I purchased this over those competitors is the price. So I got an amazing deal on this, which I'll tell you about in a sec. The price on this thing is typically dollar for dollar, apples to apples, a little bit cheaper than what you'll pay for an S5 and what you'll pay for a 340i. Now, I think those are a little bit more in demand because the S5, people think they want more room. They kind of like how the hatchback vibe looks, and it's got a lot of usable space. And the 340i, I think, is just BMW pricing. It's the B58. People bid that up. It's got a huge following. The S4 has kind of been thrown to the wayside. So because of that, there's a lot of great opportunity to purchase S4s at discounted rates. So price is the main one. Interior comfort and materials is really why I picked it over the 340i, not compared to the S5. Obviously, the S5 is the same interior. But when it comes to the BMW, I owned a BMW 330i. The BMW 330i is not necessarily as comfortable on the inside as the Audi. I know people will argue with me on that. I completely disagree. This is a much more comfortable daily driver. It's a less stiff suspension. When it goes into comfort mode, it's completely usable all the time. You don't even realize that you're driving an S4. My wife doesn't complain. My child has no idea that we got 360 horsepower in this thing. We're all chilling. It's a really comfortable ride. So price is a big one. Comfort is another really big one. Another reason why I picked this over the 340i is that I really think it's reasonable to tune these. I want to tune it. I want to mod it out a little bit. I know the 340i is a little bit faster stock for stock, but you know what? I don't care. This thing is plenty fast. You can have plenty of fun with it. And with a quick tune, you'll be over 400 horsepower and you'll be roasting stock 340i's all day. So there's nothing you really need to worry about in terms of this compared to a 340i, unless you're going to keep it stock. But honestly, you'll probably have way more than enough fun in this thing stock. If you're the person who wants to keep it stock, you'll probably not really be looking for more horsepower when you drop this thing into sport or dynamic mode. And the last and final reason why I would pick this over the 340i, over the S5 Sportback and the Coupe, is mainly because I like, personally, how a standard proper sedan looks, and particularly an Audi sedan. I love the sleeper look of an Audi. I think when you mod Audis, they look super clean. You put a front splitter on it, a rear splitter on it, get some wheels on it. This thing is going to look really pristine when I start doing those mods to it. I think the BMW aesthetics are great. I do love BMWs. I just think it's a little played out. Everybody has a 330i. You see them all the time. I think when you mod these look a little bit different. They look a little bit meaner. So in my opinion, they're both great looking cars, but I personally like this one much better. And as I drop some wheels on it and mod it out, I think it's going to look great. All right, and lastly, let's get to the deal that I got on this vehicle. So the deal that I got on this vehicle was also a major reason why I purchased it. I got this vehicle certified pre-owned from Audi, a local Audi dealer near me. It only had 10,000 miles on it, and I picked it up for $45,000. So $45,000 for this vehicle that retailed at sticker about $63,000, I think is a great deal. It's only got 10,000 miles on it. It might as well be brand new. So I got a brand new Audi S4. It's a 2022, and it's only 2024. I got a 2022 S4, 10,000 miles for $45,000. I really think that's a good deal. I'm very happy with this. You know me, I trade my cars all the time. I may end up trading this out and getting something different, but I think that 10,000 miles CPO, which means I have an additional year and 20,000 mile warranty in addition to the manufacturer warranty, I think this is a really good grab at that price. And there's a lot of deals like that on these if you look around. So you don't get the same deals on the 340i, which is the B58, because of the popularity of the B58. You're not gonna get that on the S5 because the S5 is really popular because of the space, and people think they want that vehicle because it's a little bigger and it's become really a staple in Audi's lineup. But me personally, I grew up loving the S4. I still love the S4, and I finally got my S4, baby, so let's go. All right, well, that's why I grabbed this over the 340i and the S5. If you guys like this video, I'd really appreciate it if you click subscribe, if you liked it and join my channel. We've been growing it a lot lately, and I'm super, super grateful for that. But yeah, I'll see you in the next one. I'll talk to you next time. Peace.